Hello everyone and welcome. This is Julie. Today's project is part of a group collaboration with a bunch of very talented close to my heart consultants. For my project, I decided to make these two really cute Valentine's Day cards using two Christmas layouts from the Complete Creativity Collection. So here are the pieces that I've kept from those two Christmas layouts to make these cards. I started with this double layout and I followed through with this single page layout. In this layout, I kept the little heart, of course, and this cute little doily. Everything else was removed. In this double layout, I kept the bow and the really pretty wreath. The two sentiments on these cards were created in Design Space, and they were made using the Lovely Home font. So the first thing I want to do here is add a little bit of distressing to some of my cardstock pieces. So I'm going to pull away all of my cut pieces and I'm going to keep these two pieces, which is candy apple and just regular white cardstock. I'm going to pull out my all-purpose mat, and here I'm using the light side of the cardstock. I'm using just regular watercolor paint and I'm adding splatters to the front of these card pieces. So here I'm just tapping in all four corners and adding those little black splatters. I just like the look of those, and trust me, you have to go lightly on here because you're doing black and less is more. So just concentrate on all four corners and I think you'll be really happy with the result. So these look really pretty to me, so we're going to continue on. But first, since I already have my all-purpose mat out, I'm going to proceed with this piece right here. So I'm going to add a little bit of clear shimmer on this white piece. The white on white is really pretty, but the shimmer just made it even prettier. And I like to squeeze out some of my liquid from my shimmer pen, and since I'm using my all-purpose mat, it goes down really nicely. So we're going to proceed with card number 1, and I'm going to add a little bit more distressing to that cardstock piece. I'm going to rub my ink pad along the edges just to make those black. I just like the look of it. It just made it a little bit more finished with the black little splatters. So we're going to put this together. So this is a 6x6 card base, and I'm going to go ahead and add the black piece of cardstock. Now this cardstock is a 6x6. It's just going to cover the entire front, and it's going to leave the inside white. This way it's easy for you to put in your little love note inside. So the next piece is a candy apple. It's on the light side. Now it's been distressed with watercolor splatters and a little bit of distressing on the edges, and we're just going to pop that right on the front. It's a 1/4 inch smaller than everything else. So we're going to move right along, and we are going to add those two pieces of cardstock together. So here I'm using the light and dark side of the cardstock, and I'm assembling this really nice pattern in front of the heart. And I really like that it comes with its own little shadow piece, which is that white piece. I just like the way that that white pops that heart right off the page, or sorry, right off the card. So I did cut this little heart in several different sizes because it was just really, really cute. But I would recommend cutting it in the larger format if you're going to add that front piece, because it is very intricate to cut into Design Space. So here I'm just positioning all of my pieces on my card just to make sure that everything fits exactly where I would like for them to go. So I'm going to add my doily to my card front, and first I'm just adding, like, seriously, one little drop of glue at each little scallop on this piece here, this little doily piece, and then I'm just rubbing the glue inwards so that I don't mess up my card when I put it down on the card front. I tend to put a lot of glue. I'm not sure why. Anyway, so here we're going to add that little heart, or the largest of all of the hearts, I should say. We're going to pop that guy right down onto the card. And I'm going to proceed with this really nice sentiment. So this was done again in Design Space using the Lovely Home font, and it was welded together to make one nice piece. I think this is going to be my new time favorite font in Design Space. So here I'm adding a little bit of 3D foam tape to the smaller heart, and I'm just going to make sure that my little my fits right on the card, and I'm adding here glue. I'm using a glue pen, and I'm just going to pop that right in there. Again, that little word my was done in Design Space as well. So this is the completion of card number 1, and we're going to proceed with card number 2. So card number 2 has a little bit more elements, but it still goes together very quickly. Again, it is a 6x6 card, and I'm adding a black cardstock, which is going to cover the entire card front. And I'm just going to glue that down and position that right onto the card front. And I like to tap all of my corners to make sure that those two pieces line up perfectly. And here I'm just adding again a little bit of black ink on the edges, just because I've got the black at the front and then the white inside, but that's completely optional. It's just something that I like to do, and it doesn't take that long. I'm going to go ahead here and add my piece of white cardstock, which is a 1/4 inch smaller. This is the piece that we added the watercolor splatters and the ink distresses on the side. I somehow didn't show you that in the video, but I did ink distress that white piece of cardstock. So before we proceed with the all of these other Cricut pieces, I want to start putting my bow together, because it comes together nicely, but there's just a few steps. So the first step is to glue those two pieces down. It just makes it easier when you're trying to bend your bow shape. So I'm just kind of training my paper so that I don't have a solid crease when I fold this over. And I'm just kind of letting it know who's boss, and I'm pulling it back so that when I pull those little tails back, I have a nice rounded curve to my bow. So I'm adding a little bit of glue in the center for both of these pieces, and then I'm just going to use my tweezers and hold that together. And I'm going to set that aside and let it dry, and I'm going to keep on working on my card, which is a good thing because you can work on multiple things at the same time. So here I'm positioning my nice little red piece on my white background, and I'm using, again, the light and the dark of the Candy Apple Red. Really like that red. It pops. It's just a really nice bright red, and it was perfect for these cards. So as you can see, you see the contrast between the two cardstock colors, and I'm going to proceed and add or assemble the rest of my little hearts. So the next piece that has to come together for the little bow is the center. So the center, again, I'm kind of pulling it and I'm training my paper because I've got to wrap that around the center piece where the tweezers are. So I'm going to add a little bit of glue on the front, and then I'm going to add a couple of dabs of glue at the back. I'm going to fold it over, and I'm going to let it dry. It doesn't take much time to let it dry, and you can just set it aside and then continue working on your card. So here I'm just positioning all of the pieces just to make sure that I have them exactly where I want them. And that bow is quite big, so I just want to make sure that I've given myself enough distance between the sentiment and the bow. So because the bow is really thick, I decided to put it down with 3D foam tape. I did use the thin one, and it just sat there really nicely right beside this beautiful sentiment that was done again in Design Space using Lovely Home font. So I'm going to add my little hearts. I've got the really nice detailed heart at the bottom, and the small hearts are just going on here with 3D foam tape. And that's pretty much it. So this was a really fun challenge to use predetermined layouts that were meant to be for Christmas, but just keeping some of the elements and turning them into Valentine's Day card. Be sure to check out all of the projects that are part of this collaboration. I've linked all of their videos below and subscribe to my channel so you can see all of my future projects. Thank you for watching and have a wonderful day.